In a small West African nation, a 34-year-old soldier rose from the dust of conflict to seize the destiny of a country in crisis. His name, Ibrahim Traoré. To some, he is a revolutionary. To others, a dangerous enigma. This is the story of Africa's youngest leader and the movement he ignited. In the heart of West Africa, a young soldier, once quiet, once unknown, would rise to become one of the most talked about leaders on the continent. Ibrahim Traoré, a Burkina Faso military officer whose bold politics, fiery speeches, and uncompromising nationalism have transformed Burkina Faso's political landscape and captured the imagination of millions across Africa. Ibrahim Traoré was born on 14th March 1988 in the small village of Kera in western Burkina Faso. Quiet, intelligent, and determined, Traoré's early life was shaped by rural simplicity and community values. His academic path led him to the University of Ouagadougou, where he studied science and geology. Here, he became active in student associations, Muslim student groups, but also the Marxist-leaning ANEB, where he defended his peers and sharpened his political worldview. In 2009, Traoré joined the Burkina Faso Armed Forces. He trained in Morocco, specialized in anti-aircraft systems, and later fought on the front lines of the jihadist insurgency threatening his country. In Mali, serving under the United Nations MINUSMA mission, he was cited for bravery during intense rebel attacks. These experiences would become the crucible that shaped his future leadership. But by 2020, Traoré grew disillusioned, watching soldiers die with inadequate equipment while politicians enriched themselves. Among young officers, frustration grew, and Traoré became their voice.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré has been declared the new head of the West African country.
In September 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré led a bold coup against then interim President Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. At just 34 years old, he became the world's youngest head of state.
As you've just mentioned, there has been a unilateral announcement made on public television, a group of armed military men, at least dressed in military attire, and they've just announced that Ibrahim Traoré will be taking over.
Conscious of our historical responsibility, the Patriotic Movement for Safeguard and Restoration hereby commits all fighting forces to refocus on security and the restoration of the integrity of our territory. We reassure the international community that Burkina Faso will continue to respect its international commitments, including human rights.
Burkina Faso youth celebrated. Many saw him as a new Thomas Sankara, charismatic, uncompromising, and fiercely Africanist. Others, especially human rights organizations, feared what a young military ruler might become.
Burkina Faso has dismissed a report from a rights group accusing the military of executing 223 civilians, including more than 50 children. Human Rights Watch says that Burkina Faso's army carried out the killings in 2 northern villages in February. The report says that they were executed as part of a campaign against civilians accused of working with armed groups.
Traore quickly redefined Burkina Faso's foreign policy. He distanced his nation from France and ECOWAS, expelled French troops, and embraced new partnerships with Russia, Turkey, China, and neighboring juntas in Mali and Niger. Together, these countries formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a pact of military governments determined to reclaim sovereignty and wage a more aggressive war against jihadist groups. But Traore's pivot came with controversy. Critics accused him of allowing Russian Wagner mercenaries into the country, a charge he denied, insisting instead that our Wagner are the VDP, the local volunteer militias. Under Traore, the fight against jihadist insurgents intensified. Mass recruitment campaigns, general mobilization, and new taxes fueled the war effort. But the violence escalated. Human rights groups documented massacres attributed to both jihadist rebels and state forces. Press freedom waned, opposition voices were jailed or conscripted, and critics warned that the revolution was drifting toward authoritarianism. Yet among many Burkinabe, especially the youth, Traore's popularity surged, fueled by his anti-colonial rhetoric and promises of dignity, sovereignty, and renewal.
That's right. So, I mean, the statement came out with strong words. The government said that the allegations made by Human Rights Watch were baseless, and if they had any evidence, then they should put it forward, because there is an investigation by the government over these alleged killings. In fact, the statement goes further, saying that in any instances of human rights violation, well, the government goes out and opens investigations. But the issue here is, do those investigations end with conviction, sentencing, or prison term? Since Ibrahim Traoré came to power in a coup 2 years ago, none of these investigations have come to some sort of conviction. And that's the level of impunity that Human Rights Watch is trying to point out with this latest report that shows that the security forces of Burkina Faso went out to kill those that they were meant to protect. The allegations date from February 25th on 2 villages in the border with Mali, where survivors pretended to be dead while security forces were killing villagers. And that's according to eyewitnesses that spoke to Human Rights Watch.
Traore's economic policies were bold and confrontational. He nationalized major foreign-owned gold mines, launched the country's first gold refinery, cracked down on smuggling, and strengthened state control over natural resources. These policies drew praise from supporters who saw them as restoring national wealth, and concern from investors who saw mounting risks. Meanwhile, agricultural and industrial projects, like the tomato processing plant in Pognongo, aimed to reduce dependency and stimulate local production. 3 years after Captain Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power, he has become a social media phenomenon, often compared to the giants of Africa's independence struggles. Across Africa, Traoré became a symbol, controversial, charismatic, and impossible to ignore. Admirers hailed him as the last African hero. A film in Ghana celebrated his life. Analysts debated whether he was a revolutionary or a rising strongman. Since taking power in 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has launched an ambitious agenda to remake Burkina Faso's economic and infrastructural landscape. Emphasizing self-reliance and long-term development, his administration has poured resources into a wide range of projects designed to reduce dependence on foreign aid and stimulate local industry. 1. Revitalizing Air Burkina. Traoré has invested heavily in revamping Air Burkina, aiming to transform the national carrier into a competitive regional airline and strengthen both domestic and international connectivity. 2. Cashew Processing Plant. A new $25 million cashew processing facility is intended to add value to one of the country's most important cash crops, while also creating much-needed jobs. 3. Post-bank modernization. With $45 million in funding, the Post Bank of Burkina Faso is being modernized and expanded to rural communities, promoting broader financial inclusion. 4. Tomato processing factories. 3 tomato processing plants, funded at $30 million, seek to curb post-harvest losses and boost local food production. 5. Cotton processing facility. A $50 million investment in a state-of-the-art cotton processing factory aims to keep more of the industry's profits inside the country. 6. Bobo Dioulasso Airport expansion. A $100 million upgrade is transforming the Bobo Dioulasso Airport into a regional transport hub capable of driving trade and commerce. 7. Agricultural empowerment. More than $150 million has been allocated to mechanizing agriculture and empowering farmers, part of a broader effort to reduce reliance on food imports. 8. Ouagadougou-Donson Airport. Traoré has earmarked $200 million for the construction of the Ouagadougou-Donson Airport, envisioned as a major international gateway. 9. University Center of PLO. The education sector is receiving a $60 million boost with the creation of the University Center of PLO to expand access to higher education. 10. Affordable housing development. A $120 million housing initiative aims to address shortages by providing affordable homes for low-income households. 11. Gold permit deal with Russia. A new gold permit agreement with Russia is projected to bring in about $500 million, strengthening state revenues. 12. Road infrastructure. More than $300 million has been committed to building and maintaining roads to improve connectivity between rural and urban regions. 13. Bobo Dioulasso Dry Port. A $90 million dry port under construction in Bobo Dioulasso is expected to enhance the country's role as a regional trade corridor. 14. Education investments. An additional $75 million has been dedicated to improving school infrastructure, teaching materials, and educator training. 15. Hydrocarbon Depot. A $40 million hydrocarbon depot project seeks to bolster fuel security and stabilize energy prices. 16. Nuclear power plant project. Perhaps the most ambitious of all is a $500 million nuclear power initiative aimed at ending the country's chronic electricity shortages. 17. Thomas Sankara Mausoleum. A $15 million mausoleum honoring Thomas Sankara blends cultural preservation with tourism development. 18. Mega Geriatric Hospital. a $70 million geriatric hospital is being built to address the needs of an increasingly aging population. 19. Mega cement factory. A $110 million cement plant is set to reduce import dependence and supply both domestic and regional markets. 20. Indigenous electric vehicles. With $40 million in funding, the Ottawa and Sahel electric vehicle projects aim to push Burkina Faso toward cleaner, homegrown mobility solutions. 21. Faso Rail. A $250 million Faso Rail development seeks to link major cities and streamline the transport of people and goods. 22. Water security projects. Over $130 million is being directed toward boreholes, dams, and water treatment facilities to improve long-term water access. 23. August 4th Stadium renovation. The iconic National Stadium is undergoing a $35 million renovation to bring it up to international standards. 24. Gold refinery. A $75 million gold refinery project will allow Burkina Faso to process its own gold and capture more value locally. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's government is pressing forward on all fronts, pursuing an agenda that blends national pride with economic ambition. While critics question the feasibility and transparency of such massive spending, Traoré maintains that these projects are essential steps toward economic independence, job creation, and a more self-sufficient Burkina Faso. According to exiled journalist Justin Yaga, now living in Sweden, Traoré and his allies deliberately employ media campaigns to divert attention from domestic shortcomings, especially the government's struggles in combating terrorism. Yet, even when journalists like Yaga reveal the strategies of Traoré's junta-led government, their reports struggle to gain traction within Burkina Faso. Kenyan columnist and political blogger Patrick Gathara argues that the challenge goes beyond simply choosing better leaders. It lies in building strong institutions that limit power and enforce accountability. In Burkina Faso, however, that task appears increasingly difficult. Just last week, the country passed a sweeping new family law that, for the first time in its history, criminalizes same-sex relationships. Ousmane Ali Diallo of Amnesty International criticized the law, arguing that military regimes in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are eager to distance themselves from the West. This is now reflected in the norms and customs of Burkinabean society, Diallo told DW. The desire for sovereignty is being abused by introducing measures that discriminate and potentially violate the principle of equality before the law. The legislation also includes other authoritarian provisions, such as granting the government the power to strip citizenship from individuals who publicly criticize President Traoré. In mid-2025, a video surfaced on social media purporting to show Donald Trump calling African resources for the US and France and attacking Traoré's leadership. That video was debunked. Forensic analysis showed the clip's audio and visuals were manipulated. The speech does not match Trump's actual remarks. Ibrahim Traoré is one of Africa's most polarizing young leaders, praised and criticized in equal measure. But among his loudest defenders stands one of the continent's most influential voices, Prof. PLO Lumumba. While critics accuse Traore of ruling through a military takeover and restricting political space, Prof. Lumumba consistently argues that Traore represents a new wave of African self-determination, a break from dependency, neo-colonial pressure, and corruption.
The rise of Ibrahim Traoré is almost seen as the reincarnation of Thomas Sankara and his revolutionary fervor. And that is why he has become a poster boy for the new Africa.
Supporters say Traore's youth, courage, and anti-imperialist stance echo the dreams of Sankara. Opponents worry about democracy, institutions, and Burkina Faso's uncertain path.
Ibrahim Traoré is a symbol, and a symbol is part of the system. So what young people must realize that success is not an individual achievement.
It is fair to say that in mid-2025, many analysts consider Traoré one of the most popular presidents on the African continent, thanks to his rhetoric, symbolic gestures, and ability to tap into a rising wave of Pan-African sentiment. That said, calling him the most wanted president in the world overstates what the evidence supports and gives a sense of global popularity that cannot be substantiated with reliable data.